In this video, I'll be going over the game between G2 Esports and Natus Vincere during Playday number 12 of the EU Pro League. I just want to say I've already seen the VOD once, and this is easily the most exciting game of the season. In Siege, it's really difficult to attack because of how defender-sided the game is set up. There is a 7-second plant time. You have no idea where defenders are in the building, etc. So anytime a map favors attackers, as a viewer at the very least, and also as someone who's very interested in the strategy of Siege, it's just so exciting to watch because this is clearly two teams counter-stratting against defenses. A defense can obviously can give to the defenders a certain look, and then attackers need to adjust to it. But if attackers can predict that look and then build strategies around that look to counter it, man, it's beautiful. It's really wonderful to see. In any case, Navi will ban Lion, and that's just because very oppressive operator, makes you stand still. Only counters are Mute and Vigil. G2 are phenomenal with the operator. Gridlock is G2's ban on the attacker side. Kind of locks you in place, as her name implies, and very difficult to move around her traps and not get detected. G2 will ban Mozzie. Mozzie's become kind of a staple to places passed by those admin windows in order to snatch a drone. Good intel denial operator. Also vital to some setups now because of the secondary shotgun. And then lastly, Navi will ban Maestro. His Evil Eyes at times can be impossible to remove. Yokai drones can be shot. Difficult to see, but can be shot, whereas Maestro's Evil Eyes require specific utility oftentimes to deal with. Alright, so for starters, G2 decides to swap Hibana for Nomad. That's again because those operators in Lion and Gridlock are banned, and most likely G2 feels that they need to have some operator in order to secure those flanks. They bring two soft breachers in Sledge and Buck, as well as nades. They don't have a great way to clear out ADSs though, other than the IQ potentially. And Thermite, not very good on a lobby attack, but of course you're thinking this could be a garage defense. Then on Navi's side, you have Valkyrie countered by IQ. The Doc, so Echo's on the board, but Navi elects not to bring Echo. Kind of interesting. I've seen this quite a bit from G2 actually, where they'll favor a Doc over an Echo. I'm not really sure what the thinking is there. Perhaps the ability to stim oneself is simply greater than the ability to deny a plant and that intel at this point. Of course, most Docs typically bring a deployable camera. And then Jaeger, I already talked about how very powerful given G2's lineup. Only the Nomad with flashbangs, and the Thermite too, I guess. I forgot about Thermite there. And of course, if you're bringing Nomad, you're probably not bringing a Claymore on Thermite. So I think the idea from G2 is Nomad and Thermite, flashbangs to clear out ADSs, Buck, Sledge, two nades, pairs of nades, and you got the IQ also to relay when ADSs need to be burned. Something I want to point out is where the jammer is being placed. There's one on copy room. This makes droning through this area very difficult. Another is going to be placed in meeting. This makes droning through Visa or admin into meeting difficult. And another jammer placed on the meeting wall, and two reinforcements there as well. I guess if we're pointing out that reinforcement, we'll point out that copy room is reinforced as well as admin is reinforced. And this jammer here is to deny any kind of hard breach on meeting. The thing is, Mute's setup is very long. Smoke, meanwhile, is also setting up on the west side of the map. And while we do catch the vertical soft destruction happening in the lobby as well as the lobby hatch, I want to direct your attention to admin hatch and the lack of soft destruction in, sorry, not admin hatch, but console hatch and that cabinet hatch and the lack of soft destruction in the area too, because that's what enables G2 to rush plant into piano. There was no vertical destruction, no way for a lurker of sorts or a roamer to drop down and contest this plant that G2 is going to do so quickly. And with a little bit of droning, G2 is able to read into the fact that there's no one even in piano in order to contest this rush. So G2 is trying to plant in press room on this spot here. That's a player. There's a player on the rappel. There's a player on console rappel on the second floor. That's to cut off any rotates or vertical pressure down onto site as the plant is happening. And lastly, we saw a player move into the position on yellow stairs. Now, what are they covering? The player on yellow stairs is effectively cutting off any rotate back into site on the east end of the map. This is all isolated now. The only way this player dies is if we have some defender on, say, yellow stairs or even the basement rotate up and contest this player. If the player on yellow stairs dies, a lot of this falls off. The problem is very difficult for there not to be a refrag, because we also have a player on piano rappel who can very easily trade, and he's also able to deny into antechamber. Let's talk about a second way that this plant can be denied. So if a defender is able to make a play in, say, lobby or even public bathroom, if it hasn't been droned out properly, and let's get rid of these lines, and able to contest the planter or the plant coverage, then potentially this plant gets denied. But again, we have a player in this position to do just that. Another option, although this won't stop plant, is to run out front door and kill the repeller. You could even vault out front. You can even vault out of say antechamber if you were here or on the second floor, right? Lastly, there is the option for C4 below in garage, but Buck opened up some pressure into garage in order to dissuade that as an option. And I suppose there is one final option, which is to deny vertically. The problem is, we already mentioned how we have a player who is above, right? And they are able, let's draw this out. There's a player above on the console rappel with the hatch still soft. Would have been a great way to drop back into sight, right? No vertical pressure, and is making sure that no one drops and tries to deny this plant vertically. So let's back up real quick. So a very easy rush plant enabled because there's not really a player in piano in order to detect or counter this. And these are the core elements. You had a player on yellow stairs, a player on piano rappel covering the plant, and then a player up top making sure that there's no vertical pressure or vertical way to deny plant, with vertical pressure below in garage in order to dissuade any nitro. A beautiful plant from G2. It happens at 2:14. So we just saw a player peek through the public bathroom. As I mentioned, that was an option for stopping the plant. We just saw a player hop out of antechamber window, another way to contest the plant coverage, but it immediately gets refragged by Pengu, as of course the problem of running out. Buck is playing this vertically in order to support the plant. Pengu just needs to stay alive here.
Allowing for Fabian to play in a more advantageous position, and advantageous indeed, as he has the skeleton key from below, underneath the dock. It's a stick though from Nello. Does he read it? Yes! Fabian.
And that vertical play able to secure the win there. Alright, same lineup from G2. I think for the most part they stick to this core, not much switching here. And then from Na'Vi, the only big switch is instead of a mute, they've brought out a clash. They showed a lesion. G2 doesn't make an adjustment or anything. Console office, so the thermite probably not going to be that useful. But the clash, while an oppressive operator as a defender, very easy to deal with when you have 2 nades on the board, a Nomad, and also all the repels of Consulate, and G2 a very proficient team on those console repels, on those Consulate repels. Okay, so G2 lost a man early. They're starting to prepare to get into their repels for the execute though, and it looks like it's going to be a console plant. Very important to note that they have a drone on the lower floor for Kanto to watch as he's dead and ensure that this plant won't be denied by AC4. You have Pengu on the connector repel, Fabian on yellow stairs repel.
When the opportunity presents themselves. And knowing that as a Nomad, you're in a very powerful position to be in.
Once again, Gogo droning underneath to ensure there's no C4 in the form of plant denial. We just lost Pengu on the connector repel.
Third on the CEO repel is Uno. Nello waiting for the peak, but Uno's going to take down saves. And
there was an air jab set up by Pengu very early in the round on somewhere around connector, and that forced out the smoke out of position, and Uno able to capitalize on the utility there.
Given that they know they have the man advantage and they don't need to let it slip away. That was thanks to Fabian downstairs actually going to take down Citizen. I was going to say the kill on the...
So right now, I think G2 doesn't actually... I mean, they're trying to come back together, but they're very disconnected. It almost kind of seems like they're trying to regroup within the building. And a bit lost as to how to move through with the round. But because they were able to get that extra pick in the Valkyrie playing very aggressively there by Spiral, G2 now has an even man count and is more enabled for a default strategy.
Yeah, that's really the big problem, is having even the same amount of players. If you can just deny with that clash and play really good teamwork, work out. And unfortunately, he's just barely missing the feet. He's right there. You even
like, none of this buck vertical play right now seems as though it was part of the original plan.
But Goga's going to get the kill, so there's more of that G2 teamwork working out. And then also takes down Kendra, leaving just Pi, the newest addition to the roster, holding on to yellow.
I don't know how Goga got that kill either. Probably someone in connector, just the power of that repel. And then Uno climbs up Spiral Staircase, but there really are very few chances for G2 to refrag during that round because of how split their push became. Somehow it works in the favor of G2. I don't know where the black eyes are being placed, but clearly not in positions that support the defenders, because what I see are a bunch of 1v1s, or that round should have not gone in G2's favor. If Navi plays that with some kind of buddy system, they should be able to trade out favorably and win that round, but obviously that didn't happen. We can go over reinforcements, but I don't really know if it matters a whole lot. On the second floor, very vanilla. We saw a reinforcement on yellow stairs, one also in cabinet, one on private bathroom, one connector, 2 in meeting, 1 copy room, and admin. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There's 2 reinforcements, most likely on the connector as well. And then maybe even the second one, I might have just missed it. Very vanilla, once again, from Navi, some stop destruction on the meeting wall. And it's just interesting that that fell apart, and also a rotate connector. That fell apart for G2 very quickly. And then Navi was unable to secure the lead because they just kind of lost their 1v1s, but Navi turned them into a bunch of 1v1s. They had the 4-3. At one point they had the 4-3 man advantage. I think this view is the best just because we get to see a lot of the utility being used firsthand. So a reinforcement on meeting may be too hard to tell from the view actually, and I don't think we see a better view anytime later. Reinforcement in this break area, as well as 2 reinforcements, actually 3, because I know they've placed the reinforcement on the southmost wall of break room. So we have 4 reinforcements at this point, and that actually might be it in terms of reinforcements. The hatch is open down into admin, a castle barricade, and then a rotation right next to it. I don't really understand the thinking here. I know you're trying to isolate the angle that you would get from the window rappel, but now the window repeller has an angle all the way onto Visa stairs, so I'm not really sure what the thinking is there. A jammer on Visa. I guess the idea there is to counter any push that would come from the west side of the map, because obviously if a player makes their way up Visa stairs, they're going to see that jammer and shoot it very easy, but if they move in through the west side of the map, then their drone will get caught by that jammer. A reinforce or soft destruction also in the break area to rotate out of there should a defender choose to do so.
Is Pengu's air jab and connector.
Yeah.
You put that air jab up, and then you saw Uno was just waiting on the angle. And I was thinking to myself, why is he waiting there? He knows where Nello is in CEO. Why doesn't he go for the refrag?
For the freebie.
And it's because Uno knew where the air jab was, because they must have practiced that.
Yeah. I mean, really, you should. As a team, if you're planning to bring Nomad, pre-plan that stuff. You don't want air jobs to go off.
Very important to mention how the Buck decides to stand on the reinforced hatch. He cannot get nitroed. Also, reinforcement on that hatch. I actually think we hear a nitro go off. Just that second. Let's point out there's a castle barricade into sight. A defender on Visa stairs doesn't catch Buck. Not really sure how that doesn't happen earlier. Maybe actually thinking if I don't peek this, I can get more. But meanwhile, and now instead of, I had said I heard a C4 go off. No, I think what actually happened is Sledged opened up the hatch underneath the default camera in Visa, and they dropped immediately into blue and have begun planting. Somehow there's no defenders in blue. No C4 apparently in a area that would have been great to have C4 or operators with C4, right? In the Mute and the Valkyrie. And now the defenders need to retake site a little easier because they're going from above down onto site, but still difficult because they got 45 seconds to do so. Especially difficult when what you're defending retake strategy is just to drop down hatches and fall into the arms of the well, now defenders, but then attackers, and absolutely locked out. So again, same problem from Navi. They didn't have a player in sight, and G2 read into it, was able to drop into blue and plant very quickly. Navi forced to retake and did so with a terrible retake strategy, which was for the most part dropping down hatches. Like, what utility did G2 even use there? They opened up a hatch with some soft breach. I saw Buck also doing some work, and then Nomad probably isolated rotations. Bada bing, bada boom. Droning, probably the most important utility that G2's brought thus far, just in order to read into all of these offsite roams and lurks from Navi. No change from G2. On Navi's side, we have a 6 from the mirror onto the Cade. It's not going to force anything out of G2 because, of course, there's so much vertical play you can do on the map in either the Buck or the Sledge. This time, an Echo, I think more intel is definitely needed from Navi. There needs to be some kind of Legion. Actually might be the best option, just because you'll at least hear something when that rush happens. Triple panel reinforced, 1, 2, 3. A most north wall reinforcement on kitchen, as well as lots of soft destruction here in kitchen. A full rotate too. We'll mention, or cafeteria, another rotate between cafeteria and I believe this room's called security. I forget right now. We see reinforcements, 2 reinforcements on these security walls, as well as 1 in the front. Some soft destruction to pair in order to give defenders lines of sight and in order to contest the garage breach. Right, that's what that's all about. reinforced hatch. We see those dropped pieces of wood there. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then most likely the last 2 reinforcements will be placed in the back of, if I'm mistaken, there is a reinforcement on public bathroom. Not really sure why you would even reinforce that wall if you're not planning on holding it above. Maybe you're worried about defender or attackers getting deep angles from the hatch. Actually, I think that's why, from that vantage point, because you would be able to look down onto maybe White Van, although I've never really played with that angle. So yeah, G2 has droned out the entire top floor, it seems, because Buck would not feel comfortable just walking in through main lobby. They might even know that there's no one on the first floor, and they know all this in the first 2 minutes. Like there's a prep phase drone on the lobby circle there. Do we get to see? Let's actually, I'm going to try to stop each one of these cams. So we have a cam in press room. We have a cam on second floor hallway. We have a cam on exit stairs. What would exit stairs be? Stairs would be the yellow. We have a cam on service stairs. This is like your default drone. It's barely even moved. We just saw that lobby cam and also a visa cam.
That are going to do the job that we need them to do. There's simple ones like this one, right? Like you don't have to think.
I don't think there's any point in putting 2 air jabs there. I'm pretty sure both will detonate whenever a player comes above. And both detonating, I don't think, actually provides any benefit.
Actually, because that means a lot of this floor is not going to get opened up, and counter-strat's going to have to rotate if he's not already there. Okay, he is there. So counter-strat's there. So, okay, the floor will get opened up. It's just going to be slower. Which is also, you know, that's bad too for the attack, but it's not the end of the world for them. The big blow is, of course, that Fabian has been one of the top fraggers on his team, and him being gone is, you know, not great. Not what you want if you're G2. So this could be first round for Navi. They're looking pretty strong. Default cam actually makes it.
So there is an Echo. There is a Valkyrie. But where is the denial? Actually, so Navi's aware that the plant's going down because we just saw an impact land right next to Guga during the plant. There needs, at this point from Navi, to be an effort to retake top floor, either through Spiral, which we know is air jab, so that's not an option, or through Visa, which is most likely what they should do. We just saw the first yokai being used. Unlucky that the IQ dies there. Obviously very important for the plant coverage. Yellow Stairs is a very powerful position to cover plant. But even more curious that the way that Navi's going to handle this plant is by just running a player up towards the planter. And actually downed from the IQ.
Eliminates Pi on his aggressive push, but he's got the yokai drones, and he will be able to deny this in the dying seconds of the round if counter-strat doesn't find him first. Here it is, 5 seconds.
So he has the yokai in order to stop the plant there. Trying to go for the second one. And Kanto able to remove the yokai. A huge play from Kanto. Once you've got the diffuser planted as a defender, it's so difficult to retake Raj and diffuse the plant, especially when you've got 2 defenders who are holding this crossfire. This is a nasty crossfire. Let's look at it from outside. So we have a player on this spot with the breach still intact mostly, and soft destruction here. The defender can only rotate between that window there. Then we have another attacker holding here. So the crossfire, I'm sure you can do the math here, looks something like this. Even if the Echo is able to somehow peek this player here, he needs to swing out onto the player by this breach. And the player on the reinforced wall we'll see the shoulder of the player peeking, swinging out before he's able to see the attacker who is covering post plant. So the possibility of a player actually being able to defuse with this post plant positioning from G2 almost impossible, because even though Echo was able to swing out, there is a player behind Black Car able to refrag. He needs to snap almost 90 degrees in order to clutch this. There's just zero adaptation from Na'Vi at this point, and G2's not really changing anything up. Like I mentioned, I think a Legion would be really strong. Put it in a default plant spot, or put a Gumine in a default plant spot in order to at least just get some kind of indicator that's happening. Clearly the intel, well, that round it was different because actually Na'Vi knew the plant was happening. They just have a good way to stop it. But the intel still seems to be lacking in terms of detecting when that plant is happening, at least through the first 3 rounds. Heavy upstairs reinforcements. We saw one meeting, one connector, or 2 meeting, 1 connector, and then also admin. If there's no soft destruction from Na'Vi once again into piano from console, then expect a similar rush plant. Unless there's a player playing in piano. So G2 just drone out a player in console. They know he's there. And 2 frags. I wish we could see how they pushed that. Looked like Kanto, who was in private bathroom right now, and Uno, who just swung into yellow stairs, both able to get 2 players peeking.
I believe that was Citizen. No, actually, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. It was Pengu. So that was honestly. Ooh, Kendrick gets a C4 though, and he does get refragged by Fabian, but no second.
Nice C4 there. Fabian should not be running up spiral stairs. He's right by site. There's no reason to be running. Also, you can't ADS very quickly. It's like the second time I think I've mentioned something. I don't know, I've talked about that with Kanto, so never mind.
That refrag in turn over by spiral staircase. The action is non-stop here for this match.
Very aggressive play from G2, very confident play, but now they're just 1 man up against 2. There is smoke on the board, but Citizen low health. This is very doable here, but all the grenades are now gone.
So looks like despite the drone not being able to see the player on spiral, Pengu heard the player on spiral, and that's why IQ is peeking these soft holes in order to get an angle onto that player in circle. Unable to find the player spiral or circle, they must have just kind of thought that, oh, I heard something incorrectly. But now they know for sure that there is a player circle based on that death of Goga. Maybe actually died from antechamber based on the way that G2's holding this right now. So there was an opportunity for Na'Vi to contest this plant. Not the plant support. Well, lots of opportunity. So Na'Vi could have contested the plant support by going and retaking vertically. Another option would have been and killing the IQ. Another option would have been going down this hall, which is what is currently happening, and killing the planner. Because IQ doesn't really have an angle, a great angle, to cover from there. But what is possible is that there's no air jab there. Not based on how the smoke just moved through. Incredible shot from Pengu. I think if smoke moves on to Pengu quicker down that hallway, then that plant doesn't go off successfully. Our first change from G2 is IQ onto Ash. There's really no reason for this change to come from G2 other than they just look at the defender lineup from Na'Vi and think there's not really anything that we need an IQ for, which is absolutely fair. So a little more fragging power to Uno. Finally, some adaptation from Na'Vi. They bring out the Legion, like I said before, that should help with at least detecting when the default plan's happening. Not nearly as strong on, say, the basement, but definitely much better on console and meeting. And then lots of familiar faces from Navi. Oh, actually, we will see the 6 onto the Yokai, the Echo. So perhaps Navi wins out there simply because they didn't expect that 6 off of the dock.
And they're hungry, and it shows, and it's impressive.
Important for us to realize where those 2 players were. They were just spotted in, not admin, but underneath admin in Visa. And so that's why these 2 players on Rappel immediately adjust and are waiting for a run out. It won't come, but definitely threatening.
Alive as well, so
oh no, that's
not looking good.
In this right now for Navi, that's just about the worst person you could lose. I know he's playing on Jaeger, and normally we'd say, oh well, it's Jaeger, but he's the one pulling the kill.
Spire is super underrated. We'll see an angle later, but very underrated. Sledge here is making sure that these players have left Visa, and they have. So that means that Uno and him can both rappel in. No fear of dying from C4. Sledge, importantly as well, opens up some vertical destruction in order to prevent a player from getting ideas. This is how underrated the angle is. Oh man, maybe we don't see it all the way. But basically, the angle goes into connector.
They've been playing like they're possessed at this point. I mean, absolutely, I agree. They really just want to get these rounds done. They want a 7-0 and then take a break.
So from G2, looks like they're going to try to go for their meeting take. Very important thing that Uno does there is he initially throws a flashbang. That's to ensure there's no ADSs. And then he uses his breaching round in order to remove that deployable shield on Spiral. Or near Spiral. A little disconnected from G2 if this is indeed a meeting take. Or at least it's not per their own game plan. More importantly, we just saw Legion on Visa Stairs, right? And so I want to talk about what we've seen G2 do before. Maybe it's a little different this time, but what we've seen G2 do before is they want to plant in this spot here. They need a player on balcony. They need a player on Visa. They, as a luxury, want a player to be in this spot outside a copy room. And then as a luxury, we've seen them put them on console rappel. I have my own piece about that, but whatever. We won't even really think about that player. Let's remove him. In any case, there are 2 areas of plant coverage that G2 really can't get. So the first thing to note is the most important player is this one on Visa Stairs. He denies into the connector. He also can get angles into the soft breach on, say, long desk, and really isolates so much and enables the plant so easily. Some options are to C4 below, but most likely not going to come. On the balcony, we kind of have the same thing with a crossfire that covers all of meeting, a little bit of this hallway too. And then lastly, this player who watches down long desk does just that, watches down long desk, right? And so, cool, we have all these crossfires. We can kind of already determine very quickly that all of the west side of the map, very difficult to contest the plant here, right? And that's exactly what G2 wants to do. The thing is, there are 2 huge vacancies. The first we actually see Legion do, which is flanking up Visa Stairs. Unless you have, say, a Nomad who has an air jab in order to detect this, the player flanking up Visa Stairs doesn't even need to go that far up Visa Stairs. They just need to be able to shoot this player on Visa. And because there's no coverage really, not an admin anymore, because what they've done is they've opened up the hatch, but they're not looking down the hatch in order to prevent that pressure from happening. So that is one major flank potential in this plant. Again, the most important player in this lineup, or in this strategy for plant. The other glaring flaw is there's no coverage of Spiral Stairs. So another way potentially to deny plant. I think if you stand, maybe right here, there should be an angle through the soft destruction onto the player in meeting. The assumption is that the player on the balcony will be able to see the player first, but typically his eyes are going to be trained on the connector and more of this short stuff towards long desk than necessarily spiral. So main stairs, Visa stairs, and C4 underneath. 2 methods to deny plant here, as well as your normal, typical forms of plant denial.
They used one of their breach charges, instead that leaves 4 grenades available without having to waste one on a shield. Good information on Kendrew, and I will
And actually that Visa flank is the reason why I think that Na'Vi was able to win here. Without that Visa flank, this is just such an easy plant. Like, very important. Uno right now is not focused on covering connector. He's focused on covering his own flank. He's not supporting the flank like he's supposed to. And Goga actually dies. Looks like from Spiral. Legion rotated. If that was from Spiral, then Legion rotated from Visa Stairs onto Spiral. The only other way to prevent this plant.
So the flurry of kills is actually going to favor the defense this time. And Goga's dead, which means no plant.
We should see that Sledge and Ash will set up on Visa Stairs and one planting again, right? And look how committed Legion is to flanking up Visa Stairs, because again, it's one of 3 ways to deny this super powerful plant that G2 and really most of Pro League now is doing.
No, but he lets Kendrew take down Uno. Bad timing there from Kanto, which means
Na'Vi has the 2 best plant denial operators in the game. Also, would like to mention that Smoke can deny this default plant by using the clipping of his gas canisters and smoking out the player trying to plant in that corner there. Of course, the attackers can just move the planter a little more. Anyway, Na'Vi able to win. As I mentioned already, highlight of that is finally a team flanking up Visa Stairs. Finally, a team flanking up Spiral Stairs. And you know what? All the same player. Props to Kendrew for doing his homework. 6 from the Rook onto the Bandit. Not going to really matter because Na'Vi has brought the Thatcher. I guess the hope from G2 is maybe they won't bring Thatcher. More importantly, this is a cafeteria and garage defense, so Hibana not preferred over Thermite, although definitely serviceable. You can do a lot with Hibana. A hard breacher, of course, necessary on a basement attack. Nomad to isolate those flanks, and Buck for the soft destruction. On G2 side, we got the Echo and IQ counters, and G2 electing to bring a lower utility operator and Alibi in order to flank or roam at least. Alibi is really strong against players that face check a lot because you will see the shoulder of a Prisma and shoot it. But versus a pro team, I don't really know that Alibi brings a whole lot. I think she's very strong in ranked, but maybe not in Pro League. Also good in Windows, and I actually think we'll see G2 uses a decoy on the 2nd floor console looking down onto outside of garage in order to just kind of create this phantom presence there. But once again, only meaningful if it nets something out of it, and I don't think it does from G2. We just saw that Smoke reinforce the public bathroom wall again. This must be something that teams are moving forward with as far as a meta reinforcement. I really haven't ever seen a player soft breach the garage hatch or to get deeper angles from that public bathroom hatch. So it's interesting to see that now. And all the VODs that we've watched of Consulate, which I think at this point is like 5, we haven't seen that yet. So Na'Vi electing for a lot of heavy Visa pressure. They opened up the hatches. They actually dropped into blue as well as those locker areas. G2 is aware of this push because they just drunked the player. Because Na'Vi only took control of Visa, that means that these roamers are going to be super relevant. Obviously, this pressure on Spiral, not detected because it nets a kill there. And also important to mention, look in the kill feed, who is there? That's Kenta or Keti on the Alibi, able to also get a kill. The problem is that it looks like we have a really deep push into site because your Alibi, Smoke, and Echo are all dead. And so Jaeger on these spiral stairs, not going to be doing a whole lot when it's a 3v1, a 1v3 on site. And that is your last anchor, the Bandit, who just died. Probably the most important thing, we don't actually get to see the way that Na'Vi pushes, but what we do know is Na'Vi fully committed to pushing through this back route, and it looked like it was essentially a 5v3 on site where the trades worked still favorably in Navi's favor. I want to make a fuss out of this one. So Kix does a great job of commentating on this, but what Uno's doing here is he's pre-firing all the common spots behind the bomb chassis. None of that is random, and that's also why he's able to net the kill. Really difficult to know where Uno was looking there, but had he been able to win that 1v3, it would have been really impressive, and it would have been a huge mistake on Navi's part, but it doesn't happen. Lack of intel from G2 in order to assist Uno there. I love this change from G2, the Mira instead of the Smoke. Well, Mira's good because Mira will see all that pressure coming down and also be able to react to it. There is still some commitment to the Alibi from G2, not really sure why. I think Legion, after what just happened, I think Legion would once again be a better choice, just because you need some kind of indicator that, hey, this is going down right now, and some way to kind of slow down that push. The Alibi, not that answer. I also want to mention that I'm actually not a huge fan of Legion. I normally think he's a terrible operator in Pro League because you can expect the goo mines to be placed on the floor, deals 10 damage, and it's like this audible noise that in Pro League, with all the intel that there is on the board and the high usage that pros, or the proficiency in which pros use that intel, makes Legion kind of moot. I would rather have a Valkyrie than a Legion in almost every case. But here, with the way that the games are going, how quickly they're happening, you don't really have time to have a player on cams. It would be a lot nicer to be more reactive and have a Legion. This time we get to see a little bit more of what G2 is planning on doing. So not really knowing what the plan actually is, I'm pretty sure that decoy is supposed to be in the door so that the drone has to drive through it and detect the player there. Sua and Chaz, I understand. Maybe Kanto didn't get the memo, but I think I get it. We see a player on Piano Rappel. This is to cut off the rotates that would happen. So we have 2 players, one on Yellow Stairs and also one in Console. There's the hatch, which I believe is open, and there's of course the rotate down from the 2nd floor onto the 1st floor. This player on Console on Piano Rappel is able to cut off that drop and also the rotation on Yellow Stairs. This is such a good job from Na'Vi knowing to put a player on this rappel while there's 2 players up top pushing these roamers. Really, it's like Na'Vi doesn't even need to necessarily kill these players horizontally. They just need to at least force the players off of their positions and drop. Meanwhile, Na'Vi is once again making their way down into site through Spiral and Visa Stairs. No effort, it seems like, to even push through the garage wall. And then there we see it, the cutoff of that rotation. Jaeger gets aggressive because he knows that there's a push happening downstairs, and he just lost his buddy on yellow stairs, so he can't drop down hatch. He can't go down yellow stairs. He kind of needs to figure out a way to get back towards site and help alleviate the pressure that's going on right now. So he makes an aggressive play onto the IQ on Spiral. Should have won the gunfight, but doesn't.
HP. Only 30 seconds to delay though, and a mirror window here for Pengu. C4 misses. Double pushing for security. There should be a refresh.
Watch the way that Habana takes this angle. She doesn't go close to the doorway. She doesn't go hugging the wall. Instead, what she's doing is she's going to wide the angle in order to use perspective to her greatest advantage. That means that she can peek this a little slower, which is what she does, and able to get that headshot. Very difficult to see through the debris. Clearly the call-out doesn't come out fast enough from Goga because Pengu looks completely lost. G2 side, we see the Valkyrie. Then on Navi's side, instead of the Nomad, we have a Zafia. That's really the only change. There's really not a whole lot to talk as far as counterplay. I mean, IQ obviously counters quite a bit here. Primarily the Yokais and the Black Eyes. Thatcher able to remove the mute jammers and the ADSs. And then we have the nades and the Zafia. G2 has recently been reinforcing this wall on yellow stairs quite a bit. I would like someone to tell me why. I don't understand the reinforcement there. I'm not really sure what they're countering. Or do they think that a player is going to come up yellow stairs, an attacker, and shoot into sight? Is this to stop some angle from yellow Skylight? I just do not know. And then they'll also reinforce bench downstairs, which again, I don't really understand why they're doing that either. I'm once again not really highlighting much of the reinforcements this time around because we've first of all done it so much, and secondly, this is all about the attacks. All about the attacks this game. There's one reinforcement in this round that G2 skips. Navi clearly knows this, and they exploit it. And it's one that I've talked about quite fondly in the past. What is it? It is this wall right here. The wall that lets you do your default meeting plant. So we want to plant here. You know we can cover that the best is if we have an angle all the way from admin onto that plant spot. There's no way post-plant for any attacker to lose this with this kind of coverage. I understand why G2 doesn't reinforce it. It's because that wall's going to get opened up no matter what. Well, yeah, with that philosophy for sure. Interesting, we just saw reinforcement on yellow stairs, or towards yellow stairs, towards the bottom. Mute's able to play very close to Piano with that reinforcement. Quite a bit of C4 underneath from G2. We've seen this when they played against TSM. They have Mute and Valkyrie in various C4 positions that are directly underneath the sites. So we saw, let's switch to the map view. We're going to draw two X's. The first is where Valkyrie is playing, which was, I believe, right here. And then we saw Mute playing right here. Well, let me tell you where plants go. Plants go here and here. What does that look like on the second floor? It looks like this. And so that's why we have those two players there. Mute, sure, he needs to run a little bit more in order to get that C4, but Valkyrie literally just needs to swing around and deny the plant there. That doesn't work if there's a player from Navi's side who goes underneath in order to deny Valkyrie from doing what she wants to do. Because of the Thatcher, they're able to open up meeting wall. It's a lot of pressure for the player who's trying to play in meeting. Pengu can play this very aggressively by continuing to sit in meeting, but his best bet is probably to move into connector instead. Elects not to do so though. We just saw a C4 from the Valkyrie onto the Thatcher. That looked like it was, well, I don't actually know if we'll know or we'll get to see where that happened. While we're talking about C4, so one spot that we always want a player to get to is on top of these Visa stairs. To my knowledge, it's not possible to C4 that spot, but another spot that's very important is this long haul spot, and you can actually place a C4 there because it's in tellers. I would like to see teams do that more as this becomes the meta attack for Pro League teams. We're rotating Habana over to meeting because we're ready to plant. And very cool from Buck. Well, I just lost a teammate from C4. You know what I'm going to do is I'm going to play on an elevated position to avoid myself getting C4'd. But look how close Buck is to that default plant spot. We have the Zofia underneath. We know one C4 just got used, and we're worried about a second one. So we have the Zofia underneath, ready to contest anyone who might try to deny the C4. Actually, Zofia is going to move into the Visa spot, it looks like. And the IQ, who's right outside of the main door, will contest anyone trying to C4.
Really big kills. Kendrew's been a fragger, but he's refragged by Citizen. I'd say that's worth it for the defense in this situation, though. Nade's starting to come out here from Pi. He's trying to bounce it deep. Ooh, maybe
that nade is to get the Smoke, who's still playing in meeting, out.
Get to Pengu, who stays in the corner and gets the kill onto Pi on the entry. Citizen, another one for him.
The Buck instead decides to just push into meeting and dies to the Smoke, who clearly has a kit that's more situated for close quarters combat. The IQ, though, because she's on meeting balcony, able to refrag very easily. A loss not really needed. We have the Mute and the Echo, who are all both towards yellow stairs. The IQ, so let's look at something real quick. The angle that almost every single team is going to open up is this private bathroom angle into meeting. And that is about as narrow as it gets without moving into the spots towards long desk. But if I'm an attacker, what I can do is open up this barricade here and just skirt right into my plant spot while I have a player who is holding these stairs very shallow and able to cut off connector. Unless there is an aggressive play from this player, who's by private bathroom, and peeks into the soft breach that exists, then this plant is going to go down. But even more likely is the player on Visa stairs able to contest that aggressive peek. Right, so we got IQ. Actually, I would even say that was an unnecessary risk from IQ to hop in through the second window. But like I mentioned, both these defenders are really out of position in order to Natus plant. Actually, great C4 throw. I didn't know that you could throw that C4 from here and make it still land and deny the plant. The problem is that the plant gets denied after the plant happens, so no denial of plant. Also, a problem from G2 is that their plant denial in the yokai is just now coming into meeting. I understand you don't want the IQ to shoot those drones, but also who cares if IQ shoots those drones or doesn't shoot those drones when the yokais are literally not in a position to stop plant. With 15 seconds left, you need to move the yokai drones closer to site. So now we have the post-plant situation. We've got the Zofia in admin. They know this. They know in this 2v1 post-plant, they need to peek at the same time. They need to trade in order to win this game. Well, the Echo clearly pushes up way too quickly, and the Mute lags behind, so what does Zofia do? Zofia isolates 1v1, and then able to switch immediately to the next 1v1. Predictable pinch, the correct pinch, just executed poorly. We saw the C4 being tossed very late. It's clear to me, and based on the yokai having to drive in so late, there just wasn't any knowledge of what was going on in meeting because both of the defenders were towards yellow stairs, and you got default cam, that's about it. So utility needs to be used differently from G2, especially Intel. Lobby impressed the 6 from the Kaid to the Valkyrie. We've seen G2 use Kaid and Kaid those hatches in meeting, but clearly not going to happen this time. IQ, well, we've already talked about all the counter bans here, but the highlight is G2 is bringing more intel, and two of the low utility operators in Dock and Rook. Interesting that Uno decides to barricade these 2 doors, trying to isolate a push from the east side with those sound cues.
Well, this is getting G2 round. I believe they were in a 5-3 situation.
Oh, we just saw that Pengu actually does reinforce the meeting hatch.
It was definitely a close one.
We'll see. They change things up, especially like for example, they're going to change who's playing Echo.
This is pretty big. That intel, the priority on the intel doesn't really matter when both of the intel utility will, or when 5 or 2 out of 5 of the intel utility that you brought gets removed in the first 30 seconds because they're placed so poorly on yellow stairs. Angles given from outside to remove that utility. So G2 knows why they won the piano defense the way they did against Na'Vi when Na'Vi was defending. They've got a player situated in piano this time, and then a lot of roaming or lurking above site, right on the second floor. But well, we can let this play out a little bit. Na'Vi knows where Echo is and able to wallbang Echo not even very easily, but that was just done so well. Like, I would love to know what the call out is there. Maybe the sandwich of the windows. Almost no pressure opened up from the windows itself. So clearly just good droning and a great call out because we don't see a ping either. I mean, the IQ kills the Echo with her assault rifle, not with her pistol and her scanner.
Really good job there, and Uno's also been doing pretty well as a player, just in terms of killing people. So we're looking down the barrel of a 5-5 right now. Oh boy indeed.
Heavy repels from Na'Vi. Almost the exact same plant from Na'Vi as well. The only difference is no player on yellow stairs, so that's why this Valkyrie is able to play in this position here. But I think G2 severely caught off guard by the fact that Na'Vi kills a player on site and then immediately begins to plant. You know what's also missing, more likely than not? The vertical soft destruction onto site in order to support or enable in order to contest the plant vertically. That's of course why you have the buck though on the console repel. I mean, you run out yellow, or you run out main lobby, and you've got at least 2 repellers that you can pick off. We've already talked about how there's angles in lobby that can deny this plant that's happening right by the piano, like right here. But you also need players in those positions in order to do that. Another option, and we saw G2 try to do this, is contest the plant from public bathroom. I'm actually not convinced at all by Navi's take there. There's lots of holes. A good example is the Valkyrie on yellow stairs being able to be there. But, G2 put way too many players off site. The Echo dies on site very quickly. and Navi able to play it.
Oh boy, oh boy, oh boy.
No doubt the yokais. Well, so we saw 2 of the cams being removed on yellow stairs, right? That's intel that most likely could also look into piano. Back to alibi for G2. We've got the bandit, and we've already talked about how Navi's entire lineup basically counters what G2's bringing. This is a very cool little trick. So the EMP is going to detonate, remove any ADSs in the area, as well as the bandit charge. If bandit tries to trick, then this nade right here catches bandit and would kill him. We talked about alibi briefly, but this is kind of what the idea was. Put a decoy in this window to apply some kind of phantom pressure onto any player that might play towards the outside black car. Or truck, whatever that is. Alibi solo on this roam. Definitely in a position to make a play because Navi has not prioritized removing her from the second floor. That deployable shield there, in order to give the bandit some coverage, more important than so that deployable shield is very important because it gives bandit coverage when he tricks. But you also want some player on black car down here to contest the yellow stairs. Not relevant right now, but this will come up again. I promise you. Good old nade trick, who hasn't seen that?
That's always fun. You rarely see that, but it's a fun strat.
So the nade will drop down from that soft breach. So that you drop the nade on some floor, open up the floor, and the nade will detonate very quickly onto a player underneath. Removes the need to cook a grenade, which leaves you kind of vulnerable. So as we mentioned, Kanto in a position to make a play, but not when IQ hits all of her shots. I mean, earlier it was like G2 was making all the plays on defense and hitting everything, but it has switched hands here. The vertical play is significant because that's a kill. That is Bandit trying to rotate out from white. Do we see the ping? We do see the ping. So, very important. I don't know if I've talked about this on a video yet, but if I haven't, now's the time to do it. Vertical play is a team effort. You have players that need to cut off any rotations to retake vertically. That is bottom to top. If there's a player up top, then, I mean, you need to clear them out earlier, but also you can have Citizen who can hit the shots and kill that player. Anyways, you need the team to do 3 things. 1, stop any rotations from contesting horizontally and retaking vertically. Number 2, the player who's opening up the soft destruction and creating that vertical pressure. And then number 3, and this is something that people just don't do, is drone. Why create pressure when you can net kills also? And that ping that we see right here does just that. Great job from Navi. We see the Zofia was trying to push down Visa stairs, kind of being a hero here. They have such a large man advantage that it's not even worth late flanking or flanking in any way. That's just a 1v1 that you're giving the defenders. Overwhelm them. More of that vertical pressure. I don't know how the Thatcher just snaps onto that, but great shot. Very little adaptation from G2 other than the Mira. I believe, I don't remember a Mira being in the lineup last time. And then Navi sticking to what's obviously working. We're going to skip most of the prep, except I'm going to talk about something very quickly. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about the most useless Mira I've ever seen placed. What is this? I don't understand why Pengu puts a Mira window on public bathroom. like, even if a player tried to play on this mirror window, but no one does, I have so many options as an attacker to remove the player in this position. I can breach this wall. I can breach this wall. There's also 2 repels and windows that I can do that from. I can... I mean, really, that's it. Like, these 2 walls being soft means that I don't really care about there being a mirror window in public bathroom. But even more confusing is the fact that G2 will use this utility, will use this reinforcement on that spot, and won't even play a player on the first floor. The deployable shield stops a player, in theory, from peeking the yellow stairs. But if you go a little further, you can get the angle. I wonder why I mentioned that. Want to see a play? That is a play. That is a play. There is no coverage on black car. There is no coverage near yellow stairs. You let a player run in yellow stairs and kill your bandit for free. Wall opened at 2 minutes. I know the positioning of G2's players. All of them are on site. So good luck stalling the plant for 2 minutes straight when there's no smoke also. You are inviting all this vertical pressure. You've got Mira trying to peek the vertical pressure as well. Looks like Jaeger is going to go on a solo mission and try to flank here. Needs to be done in tandem. I mean, he's doing the right thing, which is taking all the way to the top floor and then working his way down, right? If he's able to get any picks on the second floor, great. That evens the man count, very unexpected. If he's able to get a pick in piano, great, because that's a lot of vertical pressure that's now alleviated. But meanwhile, it's basically a 5v3 on site with plant going down, or 4v3 with plant going down. Plant is down. I don't want to criticize anyone because there's always a strategy players play in positions, right? But Kanto's not really doing anything here. Pengu, and so Goga's trying to deny plant. Goga obviously misses the opportunity to do so. Puts the yokais in a very distant spot in order to avoid IQ removing the yokai with her ability. But again, doesn't matter if you don't even have the opportunity to deny plant. I mean, Gogo started moving his yokai, it seemed like, with 1 second remaining for the plant to go down. Jaeger just completely loses that gunfight. Unfortunate. Does the right thing, but no chance to refrag, as I mentioned, since he only did it solo. This is kind of a great attempt from G2 in this 2v4, but I mean, like, what is that? That's phenomenal. Where was that earlier? But it's just not enough. Like, Alibi and Jaeger should have flanked together, taking top floor, working their way down. That might have turned that into a 4v3 maybe. And then now what you gotta do is worry about the players outside the garage. Once plant goes down on the garage, it's just so difficult to win. And that's the big problem. The bandit clearly supposed to, in that strategy, I'm sorry for using clearly sometimes, but bandit is supposed to delay entry into garage. Unable to do that because no one on G2's side is supporting the bandit in any way other than giving him a shield to kind of hide behind. So as a whole, tons of counter strategy and really droning on maybe counter strategy, but definitely prowess and droning from G2 on their attacks. And then defensively from Na'Vi, I just think Legion would have helped them so much in placing those goo mines in the default spots. If we switch to G2 on defense, Navi on attack, I see tons of counter-stratting. Maybe not even that much not necessarily that much droning, although we definitely saw a lot of droning, but it really feels like a lot of counter-stratting from Navi. Defensively, and maybe not properly, or not executed well defensively, but certainly in their attacks. And then from G2, plant denial brought, but not used correctly or efficiently in a meaningful way. Not only that, intel brought, but removed so easily. This was a great game, as I mentioned at the start of the video, but really enjoyable to watch Siege when it's a attacker-sided sub-meta, right, within that match. And that's just what we got to see. If you want to see something very similar, watch the Chaos versus Giants game that happened on Friday. That was an equally entertaining game. Highly recommend. Lots of global operator abuse and enable an aggressive push from one or two players on the attacking side. It's just a lot of fun to see as a viewer, in my opinion. Depending on how TSM does tonight, I may or may not continue to cover them. I just haven't, in the last video, I really wasn't looking forward to doing the VOD review. And it's kind of because they're struggling internally to figure out what their roster looks like. Whereas G2 is giving us games like these, where even though they're losing, it's still just these incredibly enjoyable games to watch, to really review. So I suppose what I'm saying is, if there isn't analysis that's posted tomorrow, then just know that that probably ends the VOD reviews of TSM. And I will begin changing my focus onto different kinds of content. I was going to make a master class video on Consulate, second floor, because we are seeing this new meta take into meeting and admin and to piano. But we kind of got it in this game because of how great both teams did it. So take care and leave any feedback.